So hello, you're very welcome to Los Angeles, where the sun is setting on the LA World Cup story. Spain against Belgium, it's the last game here. The competition is very much going to move towards the other side of the country. And it's been nice to sort of get out here to get a little bit of a feel over the last couple of days for what the tournament has been like over this part of the States and obviously up in Vancouver as well. Obviously, LA is a sprawling city. It feels like you spend your whole time traveling. Every journey feels like it's going to take an hour, 30, 45 minutes. You have to be prepared to sit and wait. But it is a part of America that obviously has a real recent football history. If you think of LA Galaxy and the players have been there, Robbie Keane and David Beckham and LAFC, who are here now as well, who are going to play actually in a derby game next week as the MLS resumes while the World Cup sort of reaches its finale. So it is a place where I suppose in the years to come we will see the legacy, if any, of this competition. So I went to catch up with Keith Costigan today, who lives here. He's an ex-League of Ireland player with Bray Wanderers, with Monaghan, who came out here on a scholarship in the mid-90s and has lived in LA for over 25 years now. And is a well-known face, again, another Irish face that you would hear in media here, be it as a commentator with MLS. He does stuff on Sirius XFM and radio, and might appear on CNN now from time to time, and also, but probably more pertinently maybe as well, he's also working with Ventura County, who's an MLS Next Pro team. It's a club who plays in USL 2, so it's effectively on the ground in terms of academy football and youth football in America. So I guess he's seeing it from all sides. So I caught up with him earlier downtown. Michael McSharry, an Irish guy from Roscommon, has a beautiful restaurant called Graw. And I was invited there to have a little bit of a chat with Keith and just get a sense of what this World Cup could mean in the longer term for football in the States. Yeah, so Keith, we're in Echo Park here in downtown LA. The World Cup is winding down a little bit. It's the last game on the West Coast is Spain and Belgium on Friday. How's it been? What's your verdict on it?
I mean, I think it's been incredible. You know, you look at World Cups and first of all, you want great fan atmosphere. The stadiums have been full. You want the big stars to deliver. And, you look at the goal scoring charts and you see Mbappe, Messi, every Haaland, Harry Kane, everybody delivering. And you've had drama, you've had the great storylines in terms of Cape Verde, obviously, with Pico Lopez being a part of that. So I think in terms of everything that you want from a World Cup so far, you have, but we're always going to judge World Cups on the semi-finals, the finals, how they end. But until this point, I think, from an organization standpoint, what we've seen on the field, it's been really fun to watch. I've really been engrossed. I was wondering about the round of 32 and just is it a week too long? But I enjoyed that round as well. We didn't see many blowouts or anything in that, so it's been good. Yeah.
So this week, I came to Seattle for the USA game against Belgium, and look, it was a big anticlimax. I mean, it could have been Spain-USA. This could have been, the biggest event. And now we see the TV figures were still extraordinarily high. So, the event has clearly clicked. But how do you think it's going to be remembered in, say, you'd be very much on the, you work at MLS, you're involved in, you're involved in an MLS Next Pro Academy, and you're on the grass all the time. This is your life now. How do you think the World Cup will be remembered here from a US soccer perspective?
Well, you mentioned the viewing figures, and I think it was over 33 million on Fox in terms of watching that Belgium loss. But anytime you end in a loss, I call it a par on the field, in golf terms, because you got to the round you normally get to, and you didn't get beyond it. I wanted this World Cup to be one where we said, that's a standout win. And a standout win being somebody that you're not supposed to beat. And no disrespect to Bosnia, but I don't have them in the upper echelons of European teams. So I think in that regard, you'd have to say a par. But this is the first time I've ever seen the US being a front foot team. And in every game, they were on the front foot. Paraguay, who were excellent in CONMEBOL qualifying, they blitzed them early on. I thought they were excellent against Australia, even against Turkey when they played the reserves. Even though they lost, they played well. So you get 3 wins. You get a lot of new eyeballs on the game. And we're always talking about that here in America is attracting in new viewers. bringing new fans to the game. I think we've done that. I think you saw in every kind of city, Kansas, enamored by Argentina being in the city as well. So I think in that terms, it's been a success. Now, obviously, you have to build on that. I work in MLS. We want to see some of these new fans in our stadiums watching MLS games, and let's see how that works out over the next couple of weeks. We're back with MLS next week. But I think in terms of everything we could have possibly done to open our doors and say, look, this is something you should want to be a part of, I think we've done everything we can in that regard.
Yeah, this is a very broad question. I've met some people across my trip here, the likes of, say, Tommy Smith, I know who you know, and Kevin Grogan and Eamon Zayed, and people who in different ways have sat into life in America and found roles within the game here. I mean, you're interesting because you've done a bit of everything. You do a bit of everything, from the punditry, the commentary, and also on the ground. Like, you came in the mid-90s when you were playing League of Ireland with Bray and Monaghan. I think was Billy Baxter your manager at Monaghan, or who would you have had?
No, it was Tom O'Connor. Tom O'Connor was the manager when I was at Monaghan.
But obviously America's been good to you. How much has the football world changed, though, in your, we're getting close to hitting on towards...
Don't age me.
3 decades, getting close towards that long here, though, right? I mean, you're in LA since 2001.
Yeah.
Like, how much has changed in that time?
It's been, I always hear this, look at the cultures elsewhere. There is a soccer culture. I say soccer because we're here. There is a soccer culture in this country. Like, there's a lot of people that have, soccer's been a labor of love for them for a long time, American people. Then you have the likes of me, the likes of Eamon, who have come across and try to add to that as well. And it's changed dramatically. When I first came over, there was no real organization in terms of the youth structure going into national teams. The national team was good, but you didn't see as many players populating top European leagues. I think you look now, over the last 15 years, MLS academies have invested. They're selling players to Europe. You go see their facilities, and they're on a par with anything you would come across in that regard. So progress is being made, but I always preface that with saying, you get to a certain point, progress isn't always linear. You talk to a lot of people in other American sports, and they say, okay, so how do we now go win the World Cup? And I say, talk to England. They've been going on about it since '66. They didn't win the World Cup. Spain had never won a World Cup before 2010, and their culture is built around football. So it's very difficult if you're talking about going beyond on the field and delivering in that level. But there's no doubt, you look around all the soccer specific stadiums in MLS, they're packed out. The likes of Nashville, over 20,000 people per game. Inter Miami's brand new stadium. Leo Messi's the best player at this World Cup again. He plays in MLS.
Yeah.
So all of those things, you can't help but look at that and say, we're moving in the right direction. You've got to keep going. And it's difficult to quantify what's next and how you evaluate what that next step is in terms of success. But there's no doubt from '94, last time they hosted, to now, the US is in a way different position.
Yeah, because I'm listening to the debate this week, and I appreciate, for someone who you spend your life in this world, these are the debates that you live your whole life with. It's a bit like when Ireland have a big loss, we have a big State of the Nation debate.
Yeah.
There's a bit of that going on this week. People talking about pay for play, the academy system, the cost of football. Like, can that change over the next decade, 15 years, or is that just embedded in the culture of how the sport operates here?
It's very difficult to change anything, and it's funny, a goalkeeper catches a ball late on in the game, and there's nothing wrong with the youth system. He drops the ball and you lose the game. Everything's wrong with the youth system. So I do think, again, a lot of people that have opinions on the youth system aren't around the youth system. So there is definitely an element of pay to play. Unfortunately, that element is going to stay for players that aren't at the elite level. But now you have MLS. We're sitting here in LA. There's LAFC and LA Galaxy. Both of their academies are fully funded. Nobody pays to go to their academies. Their academies go to school within their academy system. They train every day. So in terms of a setup to allow these best players to, be in an environment that allows them to be professional from an early age, it's there. Do we want more of it? Yeah, and we need more of it because America is so vast and there's so many different players and cultures. And there's certain players that you think, well, financially, how are we getting them in positions where they don't have to pay? I get that, but we have moved the needle in the right direction there. We have to continue to do so. Part of that will be funding from from elsewhere to make sure the academies are well equipped to offer a player what he needs. But there's no doubt from when I came here to now, it's very, very different.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit earlier just about even, and this is the thing, because the tournament has been a success. I think it's hard to avoid it, but obviously the accessibility of tickets for some of the younger fans has been a problem, you know. But you still would hope that it has been inspiring enough, like the scenes that we're seeing, the viewerships that we're getting, that this does, in 20 years' time, we're able to trace something back to 2026.
Yeah, you know, I definitely, that's something that for me as a kid growing up, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. So, you know, I sympathize with kids who, you know, grow up in America and they're saying, wow, I'm priced out of going to these games. My family is priced out. I do worry about that because we do want to inspire the next generation. Having said that, I feel like the newest generation, they consume things in different ways. It's social media, it's clips of goals, it's star names, being inspired by that. And I think in years gone past, we didn't always have that. We didn't always have ways to you had to be at the game, or you couldn't really encapsulate what that meant. So I do still think it's an inspiring situation. I do think it's something they have to evaluate though, because I want young fans to be able to be there and have programs that allow young fans in the communities like we're in right now to be able to attend these games. But I definitely think it's inspiring. We always talk about so many different sports in America to choose from. Those names are known now. I think, you know, the Pulisics, the Weston McKennies, the Tyler Adams, the kids know those names now, where maybe in 1994, when the World Cup was here first, they didn't know the names of those players. They were just journeyman players or players that, excellent players at the time, but they weren't household names like they are now. So that definitely helps for sure.
Just finally, back with your pundit hat on, because I know you have a lot of different hats. Who wins this thing now?
I mean, Messi's hard to... I hate doing this because I always have a romantic idea in my head, but the pundit... to talk against France is bizarre when you consider how well they played in this tournament and how many stars they have. But there's just something about Spain in a matchup with France. They just seem to have their number, the way they keep possession against them in those games. I fancy Spain to beat France. And then England, just there's something about, I don't think, I know our Messi has played well, but Argentina aren't as good a team as you might think. They're being very heavily carried by Lionel Messi so far. I'm going to go Spain-Argentina final just because I can't live with the England part.
I know.
And I think Spain as a collective get it done.
Okay.
I really do. But having said that, it's very difficult to go against France. It's very difficult to go against Messi. I wouldn't be surprised to see that one again.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, we have that Irish thing. We have that mixed view about the whole English thing. It's okay. We can embrace it.
We watch too much of the television. We can't. It's just too much.
I got you. Okay, listen, Keith, this has been great catching up with you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's Keith. It's great catching up with him, who will, you know, continue to be a major voice, one of the Irish voices on the screens over here for the post-World Cup reality. And I think it's inevitable the game's going to get bigger here. You can just sense that. I didn't get a chance to discuss it there, but the MLS is moving to a winter season, and we'll see what that means in terms of going forward, the alignment with the European calendar and the development of the game here. It is going to be a significant shift, and we'll see if that has a longer term impact in terms of the national side and everything that goes with it. But yeah, from the perspective of the World Cup visitors who are here, it's time to leave this part of the world behind and move onwards, in my case to Miami for England against Norway. And come Monday, we'll be down to 4 teams, and we will have a real idea where this World Cup is headed.